Welcome to episode of Sittin Courtside. Today is Friday, January 17th. Feels like a special day for some reason. Why does January 17th feel special? I don't know, but it feels like a great day. We got a fun episode. I like what we've been doing with the new episodes. Kudos to you, Kyle. I'm not looking at this camera for some reason. So without further ado, take it away, Kyle. Tell them what we're doing today.
All right, so a wild week in college basketball, obviously. But this episode, I really couldn't think of a good way of, like we've kind of switched it up every episode, and I was like, I just don't have an idea for this one.
Yeah.
Well, I took my fantasy football suggestion of like doing the random order, and I just did a random alphabetical A through Z, and just the first five letters that popped up, it was like, okay, whatever that letter is, that's going to spur a question for me. So I'm going to ask five different questions based on a letter that randomly came up. But before we do that, we had nine ranked teams lose since the last Wednesday when we recorded. This season is insane. We had three ranked teams, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, all lose twice since our last recording. And they're all in the SEC. It is an absolute crazy season in the SEC. It's only going to be even more chaotic. We, if you haven't looked at the matchups on Saturday already, there are three games in the SEC that have ranked matchups. So it is just going to be chaos, carnage in the SEC. But we'll talk about that more later on when we give our picks for the weekend.
Mhm.
So, as we mentioned, five different letters for five different questions. So the very first letter that came up was an M.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very, very, very like on brand for our podcast because I went with the Mountain West. It was already something I was going to talk about. I just couldn't think of four other questions, so it was nice that it landed on M right away.
Yeah.
I want to get your worry level on the state of our Mountain West Conference. Oh,
The
he's got a
seven.
seven.
I'm
Okay,
worried.
okay.
I'm very worried about the Mountain West right now. If you look at them, they're like beating up on each other, like the Big East or the Big Ten or some of these other conferences sometimes do, but like they're not a big, like a power conference. I mean, you look at New Mexico, team that I've been on for most of the year. I've never thought they're going to be great, but I thought they were a quality team.
Yep,
They lose to San Jose State.
yep, uh-huh,
What
yep,
do you mean, right? But then last week they beat San Diego State, right? So
yep.
like you have these teams that we know that can be very good, but they're acting like a mid conference where they're losing to teams they shouldn't lose to. You can't
Mhm.
lose to San Jose State. I don't care if it's on the road or not.
Uh-huh,
So for
yep.
me, I'm worried about the Mountain West. I still believe that Utah State is a very good team. Like I do think they're a good team, but that's one, right?
Mhm,
San
yep.
Diego State I thought had something there, but they've been struggling. Uh, I don't feel good about them. Don't feel good about them at all.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I have my barometer. It's not near me right now, but I have it as an eight. I have it a little actually higher than you. And it's because when I wrote this question, it was on Wednesday for those. That was before the night games, and Utah State lost. The only team that I actually had
Yeah,
full confidence in, they lose to UNLV. So
yeah.
there's now no longer a team undefeated in the conference. So I am very worried right now. If you look at ESPN's most recent bracketology, only two teams
Yeah.
they currently have in right now.
I will say it was on the road at UNLV. If you follow my
Mhm.
picks, I did have UNLV plus 5.5. Uh, I think UNLV though is a good team. We talked about them actually the very first episode as being one of those like four or five teams in that
Mhm.
mid tier that could make a run. So like I'm not wildly upset about that loss,
Yeah.
but to your point, you can't have too many of those in this
No.
conference at this point.
Yeah, and right now in Ken Palm, there's not a team ranked in the top 30 in the Mountain West. And
Yeah.
in net rankings, there's not a team that has more than two quad one wins so far this season. So I am
Yeah.
definitely worried. I thought they had a chance at four, maybe five teams. They'll be lucky to get more than just the automatic bid right now. Because if San Diego State keeps trending this way, they're going to quickly fall out. They're only a nine seed right now, and that's after a good start to the season. So.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
All right, next up, if the randomizer landed on A, which I thought was very timely, and because we have mentioned them briefly and we actually bashed them really hard to start this season.
Mhm.
But I want to talk about Arizona here. Are we completely back in on them? What do you think about Arizona so far?
By the way, if anyone's watching this video, I'm actually looking at how many picks I've not updated on the sheet at this moment. Like, how many times have I not updated this? A, Arizona, no, not in on them.
Okay.
I'm going to strictly say in terms of national title contenders. I
Okay.
feel like when
Okay.
you think Arizona, that's what you think, right? They're a national title contender. I've got some notes here. They got a big game, 2:15 at home against Houston. I'm going to withhold my judgment to that exact moment on whether I'm
Okay.
fully in or out. But for now, they're tracking the correct direction, but they're not all there. Where'd he go? Go stand over there.
Got a star guest here.
Star guest. I gotta get him off camera. His mom will kill me.
All
Yeah, out
right.
on
So,
Arizona though.
yeah. So I'm not looking at it for national title, but I'm just looking back. I was really worried at the beginning of the season. I have them back as like a team that I'd be very scared to play in the tournament, and I
That's
think they
fair.
have a pretty deep run, I guess, Sweet 16 run in them. And I say that because all of their losses so far this season are against quad one teams. And in
Hmm.
their last 7 games, they've won all seven, and 3 of those are quad one wins. So they're finally starting to figure it out. They're tied at the top of the Big 12, and they're averaging 85 points per game in that 7 game stretch. So it feels like their offense finally figured it out, getting back to like what they were last year. They're a deep team. They can move the ball really well, and they have 3 guards. We always talk about this come March that if you have guard play, you're good. All 3 of their starting guards are in double figures averaging, and they all average over 3 assists per game. So I actually think I'm going to be supporting Arizona quite a bit moving forward.
It's fair.
All right, next up, we got an L. Okay, so this one was a little difficult. Not a lot of
Yeah.
L teams, and there's no conference to start with an L. So I was a little worried when I got this. But this is a team I wrote off very early on. I haven't been in on this team for quite some time, multiple years on the podcast. But even though they had injuries to start this season, they've actually turned it around. And that team is Louisville. They are now 13-5, 6-1 in the ACC. Do you give them a shot to be back? And by being back, I mean they get an at-large bid in the tournament this season, something they haven't done in a few years now.
Yes, I'm in on Louisville. I've been on them a little bit. If you guys listen to the pod, I've been subtly kind of hinting at them being a quality team and a weak ACC. So I'm in.
Okay.
I think they actually have one of the few very good defenses. I won't say they're elite yet, but they're a very good defense, and I think that they're showing what can happen. One through the transfer
Hmm.
portal now, but also when you have a quality coach.
Yep.
So I think big thing for them, they got to reach the 22 win mark. Like that's kind of, I feel like it used to be like 20. I feel like now 22 is kind of more of the magic number. And the
Yep.
biggest thing for them, they don't have to play Duke the rest of the year.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
they have it wide open for them to take over and get to 24, 25 wins and be easily in and not have to hover on the bubble. So I like Louisville.
Not only do they not have to play Duke, they don't have to play North Carolina or Clemson the rest of the year either. All their
That's
games
yeah.
against
Yeah.
those teams are done. So I definitely agree with you. I think they're going to easily get an at-large bid. Yes, it's a down ACC, but the other teams in the other conferences are going to beat up each other. And I think Louisville has a really good shot to finish second in the ACC,
Hmm.
which will get them a pretty good seed. And that's a bounce back year for a team that I had no hopes on. You were on them, but I didn't. They're on a 7 game win streak right now. 3 of those are over quad one wins. And they're all over like the second level of the ACC. Like it was UNC,
Hmm.
Clemson, and at Pittsburgh. Those are huge wins in a very down ACC. So
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think they're almost a lock to make the tournament because I just don't see how they stumble unless they get more injuries.
Yeah. They're a solid team. I like them a lot.
All right, next up we had the letter E, and I thought this one was. I know we talked about this guy a lot last
Yeah.
podcast, but what has happened since the last podcast has really been kind of a disaster for him and his team. So it's kind of a double E here. We got Eric Dixon and the Big East. Last time we recorded, Nova was on a 3 game win streak and they had won 8 of 9. They looked like they were trending in the right direction. Since then, they've lost at St. John's and at Xavier. Again, Xavier does have Fremantle back, a whole different
Hmm.
team when they have him back. Eric Dixon, though, he's leading the nation in scoring at nearly 25 points per game, but they have slipped from second to fifth in the Big East. I mean, the Big East is not as loaded as it's been in the past. Do you think that Eric Dixon can lead your Villanova squad to the tournament this year?
No.
No.
The Big East is going to absolutely gobble each other up. Like so much so they might only get 6 teams in. If you look right now, everyone's hovering in that like 11-7, 12-6, 11, like that
Hmm.
range.
Yeah.
No one's going to get on a hot streak. I just don't think like there's too many, I think, actual quality teams. It's going to be the same thing as last year where you had so many quality teams that teams get left out. It may come down to just who can win at home. And I did look at that. Villanova doesn't have an advantage. It's relatively right down the middle for them the rest of the year. They don't have like a, 10 games at home, 6 games on the road. That's not the split for them.
Yep.
The only thing that's going to save them, only thing, is still have 2 games left against Marquette,
Yep.
1 game against UConn at UConn. They have to go 2 for 3.
Yeah,
If
they
they go
have
two
to.
for three in those, because those are towards the back half of their schedule,
Mhm.
that will sneak them in maybe as a bubble team, but then they have to carry that momentum into the tournament with the Big East tournament. But for me, I just don't think that they're one of those teams because they're already 11-7. Uh, well, technically 11-7. They play Providence tonight as we're recording this uh, at Providence. I just don't see it happening for them.
Okay. Yeah, just to go on what you were saying, 9 of their last 13 games on the season, including tonight's game, are against teams that are in the top 61. So they have obviously plenty of opportunities to get this done, but they're 11-7 right now with the 325th strength of schedule.
Yeah.
There's not that many more teams in Division One, so like they've barely snuck by at over 500 with a really easy strength of schedule. They're one and
Yeah.
four in quad one games, 2-2 in quad three games. Yes, their offensive efficiency is very good. It's 11th best, but I don't see it. I don't. They're a one man team. It's going to be very difficult for when teams play them for a second time. So I don't think they're going to make the tournament this year, and it's kind of been really rough without Jay Wright for sure.
Yeah, it has been. It's kind of weird. Again, it goes back to coaching. How much coaching can matter in college basketball? They were a juggernaut, blue blood through the 2010s. He magically disappears on what was a really talented team that following year, and they've just floundered since
Hmm.
then.
Yeah. All right, the last letter that we have here is the W, and this conference either gets a lot of our attention each year or gets very little, depending on if
Yeah.
anybody else in this conference makes an appearance. This year, nobody else has really caught our attention, so they've gotten very little attention on our podcast. But let's talk about the West Coast Conference. If you had to pick today, it's Gonzaga versus St. Mary's. It's pretty obvious. It's
Yep.
one of them two to win it. If you had to pick today, who are you picking to win this conference?
Okay. It's hard for me not to say Gonzaga after all of the things I have laid out about Gonzaga this year, for my opinion, throughout our podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Gonzaga, however you want to say it. But for anyone that knows this show, I'm rooting for St.
Yeah.
Mary's.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm rooting for St. Mary's. That generally I've really enjoyed their style of basketball. I think they get really disrespected. They did last year in the tournament. They did the year before that in the tournament. Just and then Gonzaga gets all this praise just because they've been around for a while. Like that's the part that kills me sometimes. It makes you almost want to hate them.
Uh-huh.
But I'll
Exactly.
take Gonzaga, but I'm rooting for St. Mary's.
All right, just to give some people that are listening that don't pay attention, they're currently both 5-0 in the conference. St. Mary's sits at 15-3 overall. Gonzaga sits at 14-4. St. Mary's is 3-3 against quad one and two teams. Gonzaga is 4-4. So on paper, very even teams.
Yep.
Both teams both have their home and homes left. So they have to play each other twice, and they have to play San Francisco and Santa Clara, the 3 and 4 teams in their conference, both twice. So like there's a lot of big moments coming in this conference. Gonzaga's the better offense, St. Mary's the better defense. It's always that way. I agree. I think Gonzaga has more talent, but I will definitely, as you already mentioned, be very heavily pushing for St. Mary's because I don't want to buy into this Gonzaga team. I've already
Yeah.
lost a few bets on them this season, so I will be rooting for St. Mary's. And it would just be nice to knock off Gonzaga from winning the conference if they can do it.
Yeah. Was it 2 years ago? St. Mary's won the conference. They beat Gonzaga the last game of the season, then went into the tournament and got like blown out in the championship game. Was that two
That
years
was
ago?
actually last year. It was
Was it?
actually
My
last
God,
year.
my brain. That's okay. Well, good
Yep,
for
they
me for
beat.
remembering last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, they went 15-1. Gonzaga went 14-2. They beat them on the last day of the year and then got smoked in the conference
Yeah. Okay.
tournament.
Well,
So,
year ago, 2 years ago, it all feels the same at this point.
yeah. All right, this wasn't on the list, but we have a little bit of time, so I thought might as well.
Okay.
What do you make of what's going on in IU right now? If people didn't know, at one point in their game, they were down 50-22 to Illinois at
Okay.
home in the first half, and kids were leaving before halftime.
Yeah. So this is actually hilarious to me. Um, so as many people know, I live in Hoosier country. A lot of people that related to are big Hoosier fans. So my brother-in-law, we were talking on Saturday, and he thought Indiana was like they had it, like they're back, everything's gonna be great. And I'm like, you forget the first 10 games of the year. Like they have a
Yeah.
ton of potential. Well, I didn't my hand in the camera, ton of potential, but they never reach expectation. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't have any faith in them. I'm still on the I'm gonna wait to believe it till I see it. And then they get blown out against Iowa last Saturday,
Yep.
blown out against Illinois. Every newspaper, even within 100 miles of Bloomington, is calling for Woodson. Like, yeah, no
Uh,
joke. Calling for
yeah.
Woodson for 2 years.
Uh-huh.
They need a change, but I actually feel like because Woodson is who he is, I think they might let him continue to row the boat until he decides he's done rowing the boat.
Okay.
It's just who are they going to get at this point, right? Indiana has wasted away all of the leeway they had gotten over the last 25 years of we're a blue blood program or, we're a top program, right? Like
Mhm.
their only saving grace at all is maybe what Signetti did with football. They can be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, if he could do it with football, we could definitely do it with basketball now that we got
Uh,
money and things, right? Because Indiana has money. But I'm going to revert it back to this. Okay. Last year, there was a top player in the country playing at my high school alma mater. Okay. He was never even recruited by Indiana and Woodson. His junior year, before he even started, he already had a full offer to Purdue. And when asked, Woodson, why you're not recruiting the kid that lives 30 minutes away, he said he didn't fit into his system. For record, the kid he didn't take is 6'7, 210 pounds, and shot 47% from the 3-point line in his career. Okay.
what system is he
That's not a
running to
part
no
of
one
your
like that?
system.
Yeah.
That's not a part of your system. A kid that is 6'7 that can shoot 47% from three, not part of your system. But guess what? Sure the hell is part of Painter's system, and he fucking
Yes.
snagged him. The
Uh-huh.
crazier
Yeah.
part is the kid was interviewed when he was a freshman, and he said his number one school was Indiana. Never even got a look.
That is crazy. That is
Insane to
absolutely
me. And that
ridiculous.
is all I need to know about Mike Woodson and his recruiting habits. He doesn't know how to recruit.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it.
And just to put it in perspective, what his current team is shooting, his starting guard, Trey Galloway, is shooting 37% from three. That is the best on the team. They have another guard, Bryson Tucker. He's shooting 6% from three. We also have Miles Rice, who's shooting 30% from three. And then Malik Renew is shooting 17% from three. So apparently
Is
they couldn't find a way to put that guy on the
That's
team.
atrocious too. Like atrocious. Especially we've talked about this. Like I could walk into any high school gym in all of Indiana, and I guarantee I can find one kid that can shoot 40% from three.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he isn't a single player on the team.
Yeah.
And you can say, oh, it's different competition. Now, if you run a good offense, kid's wide open.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
if you
insane to me.
recall back, I think it was three podcasts ago, or maybe it was two. We had to do like our hot take of the season, and I said at that point in time, IU was 11-3, and I said I think they'll end up being under 500 on the season
Yeah.
total.
Yeah.
Well, right now they're 13-5. They picked up a win that I didn't expect them to win over Penn State, but whatever. So they got that win. Their next seven games, they play a top 31 or better team in every single game.
Yeah. They're
They
going to get
are
crushed.
Ken Palm has them as at least a 4-point underdog in every single game of those. So they could lose seven straight and it wouldn't be a shock to anyone. They won't be favored in any of those games. Like they're looking at 13-12 and every fan just
Yeah.
absolutely
But
losing it.
that'd be nine straight losses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Potentially of those nine, you could say five of those would be blowouts.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And regardless if they're favored or not, I know Indiana fans, they don't follow the lines. Like it's Indiana, you're expected to win regardless.
Oh,
They're gonna lose their minds.
yeah.
Lose their minds.
And only two of those are home games, and those home games are against Maryland and Michigan, two top 15 or two top 25 Ken Palm teams. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it could get really ugly.
Yeah. It's wild.
Uh, All right, let's give a little bit of an update on our records to date, if you have it. I don't know if you actually do or
No.
not. Okay.
By the way, before we go too far, do you know what you spelled with those letters by chance?
Yeah, what did I
I
spell?
instantly noticed it the second I started writing the letters down.
All right, you're going to have to tell me because I'm not putting it together.
Okay, your first four letters were MALE, male. Male W. Like what? What?
Yeah.
That's not weird at all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely
Uh,
did not notice that until
yeah.
now.
Okay.
All
Who for
right,
the leans
well,
though?
right now, though, I'm going to give up an update because I am absolutely on fire right
Okay,
now
it's
in
fine.
college basketball. I'm 169, 145, and 4. My percentage went from last podcast at 50.3% to now I'm up to 53.77%.
Okay.
Just absolutely red hot. But I was only 2-2 on the pod. I will bring myself down a little bit. But right now, your boy is hot. And thank God because he is not in NFL right now.
Oh
So,
yeah, I've quit betting NFL completely. I
yeah.
just avoid it altogether. I do have my record for the month. That's just not on the actual sheet. So for the last 30 days, I am 40, 27, and 1 in college basketball.
Dang. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
up, depending on your unit margins, I'm roughly up 9.5 units.
Okay. Damn. All right. And as we always do with these podcasts, we'll finish with some leans for the weekend. I'll just go ahead and start
Yep.
because I really am looking forward to this matchup. Ken Palm basically has this as a pick 'em.
Yep.
It's Alabama at home on Saturday. I think against or
They're on the
Alabama,
road.
yeah, on the road at Big Blue Nation, Kentucky. Sorry, I forgot that part. I think Big Blue Nation at home in a pick 'em. They're 11-0 at home. Bama coming off a loss. This will be their third road game in 4 games. I'm gonna take Big Blue Nation. I'm gonna back Kentucky here,
Okay.
so I'll take them.
All right. Well, not to go to the well here.
Okay.
First lean of the week, Kentucky, Alabama under.
Okay.
This
Okay.
might be the highest total game we have seen all year until Alabama and Florida play each other.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I could see this total being around like 180, like
Yeah. I,
178, 180. It's not
you.
out of reach for these teams to hit 100. They
Wow.
don't play defense, I'll tell you that.
Ken Palm has it up 179. So you were
Eh,
directly on
I'm
it.
telling you though, think about this though. This is a huge game for the conference and really for both teams' season at this point.
Yeah.
They're going to have high energy. There's going to be some nerves to get through those first 5 to 7 minutes. And if they're not
Definitely.
scoring at a rapid pace, you ain't hitting that number. So I'm
Yeah.
going to take the under and hope for a little bit of a rock fight towards the beginning because they're going to get in their groove there for a while. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into a foul fest at the end for free throws and it kills us, but I'm going to take the under in that game.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. I didn't know that was going to be the over under. I will definitely have that on my card too when I post this on Saturday because when you see a number that high, you just have to go
That's,
under.
yeah, that's crazy. Crazy
Yep.
number.
All right. The next one, not nearly as sexy of a game as the first one, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. They're at home against Clemson on Saturday. It's basically yet again a pick 'em on Ken Palm, only two
Yep.
point. Pittsburgh has a better Ken Palm ranking than Clemson. They have a better net ranking than Clemson. There's a home team, so I will just take them. And another thing on top of that is Clemson has not beat a top 100 opponent on the road all year, so I'll take Pittsburgh.
I also have Pittsburgh money line on the sheet. As
Okay.
everyone knows that watch the show, I don't think Clemson's a real basketball team. I've already said it. Like
Mhm.
them in South Carolina, when you watch them, you can't watch them because that's not a basketball school, right?
Yeah,
Also, I think Pitt has actually played under their potential. I
I
think they
agree.
can be a top 17 basketball team. I really like them a lot in the tournament. So I kind of hope they do live a little bit under the radar and we get a little sneaky sneaks with them.
Yeah,
But I also have them on the card to win outright at home.
yeah. And just to give it, we're kind of back in a team that's really struggling right now. They've
Yeah.
lost 3 in a row, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they bounce back at home. All right, next one here. I hate doing this, laying a lot of points on the road, but this team I have made so much money off of. I'm going to take SMU minus whatever the points are against Miami. Right now on Ken Palm, it's only 6. If I can
Okay.
get 6 with that, that'd be amazing. But anything under 10, I'll be happy with. I have won 5 bets so far just betting against Miami, no matter what the spread is. They're just a disaster. Ken Palm only has it, like I said, at 6. I love laying it, and they're 0 Miami's 0-6 in the ACC, and they
Mhm.
lose by 14 points on average, and they have only one win in their last 14 games, and that was against Presbyterian. So every time I have a chance to bet against Miami the rest of the season until it starts failing, I will be betting against them.
Uh, okay. Well, my next pick is going to
Uh-oh.
shock the world.
Uh-oh.
It's going to shock the world if you've been listening. I never was officially off the bus. I just knew the bus needed some fine tuning, had a long trip out west. It needed to be fixed before it was ready to go again.
Okay.
I got USC and the Must Bus taking out Wisconsin at home on Saturday, 3 o'clock.
Okay.
It just feels like one of those days where, you know what, Wisconsin's going to come in, all the confidence in the world. USC stinks. Muss is going to have the team ready to go. Trojans take him out in a blowout. Wisconsin comes back with their tail between their legs.
I
USC
love it.
and run away.
And as a guy that just got a win with taking USC at home against Iowa, very easy win. That was nice. I really think you're on the right track on that one for sure.
Gosh,
So,
we're hoping.
yeah.
Let's go.
All right, so this one's a Sunday before we all sit down and watch football. I actually like this that the Big Ten's been doing this where they played the early game
Yep.
on Sundays. I'm going to take the Illini on the road in a big matchup against Sparty. Sparty has won 9 in a row, but their best wins all season have come against North Carolina, Nebraska, and Ohio State. None of
Yep.
those teams I believe in, and they also fall into a team I don't believe in as well. Their rankings in both the KenPom and the actual rankings, I think, is just kind of bloated right now. Illinois stumbled, yes, against USC, but they have five quad one wins, and they blew out Penn State, Oregon, and Arkansas already this season. I'll take the Illini, who will probably be an underdog here. I'll be taking the money line to beat Sparty.
Nice. All right, last absolute guaranteed winner for the weekend. We're going to Monday.
Oh,
What?
okay.
Monday's a weekend day? It is now. We're taking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to win the national title. Take it to the home. We're going to put it on the board. Go Irish.
Yeah.
National title.
I was like, man, I looked at the slate on Monday. There's nothing on there.
What is he talking
Yeah.
about? There's nothing on Monday.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely love it. I really hope for your sake that they get the W because they have been a really impressive team to watch. So, well, thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Of course, if you want our bets every night, just make sure you go and check us out on Twitter. I'm at Kyle Cliffy. He's at Mingo Made One. We'll be back next week with a random topic. We'll figure it out by next week. And best of luck betting. Have great betting in NFL, college basketball, and college football on Monday. And we'll talk to you next week.
Love you guys.